Hello there, it's Elliot here, back for another video about Blu-rays, and in this one I want to particularly focus on the label Arrow Academy. The reason for this is that there's a sale going on at the moment over on Arrow's website. It's the Camp Arrow video sale, but there are a lot of Arrow Academy titles that have severely discounted prices. I want to highlight a few of these titles that I think are worth your consideration, and maybe you can find a new favourite among these. Of these 6 titles, 5 of them are Region B only, so you will require a Region B player or multi-region player to actually watch these. But one of them is multi-region, so wherever you are in the world you will be able to check out this particular title, and I'll mention that when I get round to it. Let's just begin with that multi-region title actually. It is Born Yesterday. This is directed by George Cukor. He is one of my favourite directors of comedy, in particular screwball comedies. He directed such films as The Philadelphia Story and Holiday and My Fair Lady. So this is a director who has accomplished many great things. Born Yesterday is typical screwball comedy fare. It's a story about this millionaire tycoon whose wife is a bit uncultured. She's a bit dim, a bit ditzy, and he wants her to become more sophisticated and learn some etiquette. So he enlists this journalist to help her come up to speed and learn some manners and become more knowledgeable about the world. It's through that relationship that things start to get a bit more complicated, and she ends up evolving into this totally new woman. And it's a great comedy, and it's just so well set up and so well directed and well acted. Judy Holliday, who's the lead role, she won an Oscar for this performance. And of course, it's got William Holden, who plays the journalist, helping her become more sophisticated. I think it's a wonderful film, and it does have its detractors today because many people say that the story is so dated and does not do well for women's rights and equality. And I can kind of see that, but the film's here, the film's been made, and I think it's very enjoyable. There's a lot to laugh at, and maybe there's a lot to learn from this film as well. The features on this disc are great. There's a video appreciation, a video essay, and a feature specifically focusing on Judy Holliday and how good she was. And I love her in this role. She is the standout performance in this film. So anyway, Born Yesterday for your consideration. I also want to recommend Children of Men. This is from Alfonso Cuarón. This is a wonderful film, so well made, and one that is billed as a modern classic already. The film isn't a cheery one though, it's quite bleak. The world finds itself in a situation where no more babies can be born, and all hell is breaking loose. Chaos is just ensuing. People are despairing because they think this is the end of civilization, and really there isn't any hope. The film follows Clive Owen's character as he has to try and smuggle the only pregnant woman on Earth out of England. The suspense and the drama of this film is that it's very hard for him to get her out of England because it's turned into this police state where everyone's monitored. No one can leave the country or enter the country. There's a big refugee problem, and it's just very hard for him to solve this task, to actually complete it. It's just such a good film, and one of the reasons I want to highlight it in particular is because the cinematography in this film is absolutely brilliant from Emmanuel Lubezki. Why I recommend this specific release over older releases is because there's a new commentary on here, new video appreciation, a video essay, archival documentary. There's a featurette by Slavoj Žižek talking about the film, and he is a particular character, always very interesting to listen to, even if I don't agree with his particular ideas. And yeah, there's even more archival featurettes as well. So this is a stacked release for this film. So I thoroughly recommend this to everyone. And for £7.50, complete no-brainer. If you're enjoying these recommendations for Arrow Academy, please do consider subscribing to the channel because I do lots of videos like this, giving recommendations for films from Arrow, the Criterion Collection, Masters of Cinema, etc. And it would be great to have you in the community because we have so many good people providing comments on films and giving their own recommendations. So please, if you can join us in the comments as well, that would be tremendous. Anyway, back to the Arrow Academy recommendations. The third film I want to recommend is The Marriage of Maria Brown. And this is, I absolutely love this film. I'm a huge fan of Rainer Werner Fassbinder. I absolutely love his style of melodrama and getting to the core of a subject, but making it so melodramatic and so accessible. Like, he pulls your emotions into the story. It's all about this character called Maria Brown, set during World War II, when her love has to go off to war and she's just waiting for him to come back from the war. Maybe a bit like Cranes Are Flying, but totally tonally different. So while she's waiting for him to come back from the war, she starts to take things into her own control. She becomes very independent and she builds this successful life for herself. But at what cost? And that's really what the core of this film is about. And I just love revisiting this one. Fassbinder has such an acute visual style as well. I love the colours in his film. I love the down-to-earth nature of his filmmaking. It's just totally brilliant. So if you're not familiar with Fassbinder, this is a great entry point, because this is really when he became known on a global scale. This film was very popular in America. I think it was the first film that really was popular in the US from him. So a great introduction to Fassbinder. The features on this disc, there's Life, Love and Celluloid, which is a 1998 feature-length documentary on Fassbinder, which I found absolutely amazing. And then there's a candid 30-minute interview with Fassbinder, which is just very entertaining and a great insight into how he goes about making films and choosing the stories that he wishes to bring to the screen. And then there's a featurette called The Fassbinder Family, which is all about all the cast of characters that are in his films, the actors that return again and again. You can spot them in all of his films. And the star of this film, I forgot to mention, Hannah Shigula, she is so good. She's always good in Fassbinder's works. So all around, this is a great release, and I totally recommend it. If you've not experienced Fassbinder yet, £7.50, it's well worth getting this just to find out what he's all about. The fourth film I want to recommend, Irma Vep. This is from Olivier Assayas. This is a French film from the 90s, and I watched this for the first time recently and I was totally taken by it. I'm a huge fan of Assayas's other works, and this is very quickly jumping up the ranks of my favourites of his films. I watched it recently and it just hasn't left my mind. So I've been totally enthralled by this film. It's a film about making a film, so it's very much in the vein of Francois Truffaut's Day for Night, which is actually mentioned on the back of the case. And, maybe other films like 8½, all that jazz. It's all about the filmmakers behind the film and all the kind of stuff that they get up to. It's about this Chinese actress, Maggie Cheung, playing herself, coming to France to star in this new film, which is a remake of the 1950s film Les Vampires. From the offset, you feel like this production is doomed. It feels like it's not going to work, because very early on in the film, they're trying to get the outfit for Maggie Cheung, and it's this gimp outfit, like this S&M kinky kind of outfit. They go to this sex shop to try and get her fitted, and her character, she's so pleasant, kind of timid, a bit meek, and she's definitely a fish out of water. It's just a brilliant film about filmmaking, very entertaining. I can't recommend it enough. This particular release is stacked because there's an audio commentary from Assayas, there's a behind the scenes featurette with commentary from Assayas, there's an interview with Olivier Assayas, there's an interview with Maggie Cheung and Natalie Richard, and then there's another short film from Olivier Assayas. So absolutely amazing package from Arrow. If you're not familiar with Assayas' works, I think this is actually a pretty good introduction. He's gone on to make so many good films since this one. But yeah, again, a great introduction, and for £7.50, you can't go wrong. The next film I want to recommend is The Big Clock, directed by John Farrow. This is a tremendous suspense film with shades of screwball comedy. It stars Ray Milland and Charles Laughton, two absolutely brilliant actors from the era. I mean, Charles Laughton was often hailed as the best actor we've ever seen. So a great cast and a great premise as well. Laughton plays this big boss who has this mistress, and Ray Milland works for the big boss in this tower that is this big clock, and all of the clocks are synchronized and everything runs off this big clock. And Ray Milland ends up having this fling with Charles Laughton's character's mistress. Laughton kills the mistress and then frames it on Ray Milland's character, and that's where all of the suspense and drama ensues. It's weird because it's noirish in tone, but then it's also comedic, and Laughton is larger than life. The set design is great, very futuristic, almost feeling sci-fi-esque in a sense, particularly in the scenes with the big clock. It's just great, and one from the era that I think doesn't get talked about enough. I absolutely love the big clock. It's tremendous. So if you're a fan of noir films, if you're a fan of Ray Milland and Charles Laughton and suspense, this is a no-brainer. And the particular release, this has a new audio commentary from Adrian Martin, who Adrian Martin does a lot of these Arrow Academy releases. It's got a newly filmed analysis on the film, another newly filmed appreciation of Charles Laughton, and a rare radio dramatization of the film starring Ray Milland. And I've actually reversed the sleeve on this because I wasn't too keen on the original artwork that Arrow have commissioned for this. I actually much prefer this classic artwork with with Charles Laughton's massive head in the clock. Anyway, I'm rambling now. Big Clock, great film, well worth. The last release I'm going to talk about and recommend to you is one I've mentioned before on the channel. It's an absolute brilliant release that got woefully overlooked, and I just need to champion this because I think the films are great, the filmmaker is great, and it would just be a shame if Arrow weren't able to do more releases like this just because this flew under the radar. The release I'm talking about is the Poetic Trilogy from Mohsen Makhmalbaf. This is such a great release, and it's shining a light on 3 films from a filmmaker who often isn't really given a lot of attention. Particularly here in the UK, we don't have any other Mohsen Makhmalbaf films available on Blu-ray, and that is a real shame, and I wish we did. So that's why I really need to push this release and champion it. And this used to be £25, it's now £7.50 in the Arrow Academy sale, and you're getting 3 films for that and a ton of special features. So it's an absolute bargain. To describe the films, I mean, the name gives it away. These films are quite poetic. They look at culture, Iranian culture. The films are very colourful. They look beautiful. And they're just so good. They really are so good. And for paying £2.50 each, essentially, it's an absolute no-brainer. So I wholeheartedly recommend anyone watching this, get your hands on this and just try the films out. You might hate them, and that's fine, but it's such a tiny entry price to actually view these films. If you're not familiar with Makhmalbaf, he's an Iranian filmmaker who made so many good films, and I really do hope more of his films come out on Blu-ray soon. And he was also featured as the subject of another Iranian film, Close Up, from Abbas Kiarostami, who is a tremendous director, but that's beside the point. In that film, Close Up, that follows this person who is impersonating Mohsen Makhmalbaf. So there's a great connection there. So if you've seen Close Up and you enjoy that film and you want to dig into Makhmalbaf's films yourself, this is it. Get this. There's an audio commentary on here. There's a conversation between Makhmalbaf and critic Jonathan Romney. There's an archival interview with Makhmalbaf. This is just solid gold. This is one of my favourite Blu-ray releases of all time. So again, I keep pushing this, but this is an absolute gem. So that's the Poetic Trilogy. So that's your lot. These are the Arrow Academy films that I'm recommending this time round. If you want more recommendations for Arrow Academy films, by all means go and check out my other videos on Arrow Academy films. I'll link them in the description below so you can access them easily. If you want to stick around on the channel for more recommendations, make sure you're subscribed, and also click whatever video is going to be appearing on screen now, because I'm sure you'll find many more films to be inspired by and maybe pick up yourself. Anyway, I will be back with more videos very soon on Blu-ray collecting and Arrow and Criterion. So until then, stay well and healthy and keep watching great films.